A tranquil campus thought it could fly under the radar. They were wrong, and what unfolded could change the way you think about higher education in America. Administrators at the University of Colorado Springs, UCCS, genuinely believed they wouldn't get swept up in the wave of scrutiny President Trump's administration aimed at top universities. Set on a scenic bluff with breathtaking views of Pikes Peak, UCCS seemed almost a world apart from the elite Ivy League schools that so regularly drew Trump's ire. Most students commute, juggling classes with demanding work schedules. Ask around, and you'll hear people describe campus culture as low-key, even apolitical, especially given its conservative location in a largely liberal state. But here's where it gets controversial. That confidence quickly evaporated. A deep dive by the Associated Press, poring over thousands of pages of internal emails and personal interviews, revealed the stunning speed at which faculty, students, and administrators at UCCS found themselves targeted by actions from the Trump-era Department of Education. They were suddenly thrust into an atmosphere of uncertainty, forced to navigate regulations and investigations at a pace no one had anticipated. Here's the twist most people miss. UCCS, far from an Ivy League hotspot, now faced much of the same pressure as renowned private institutions across the U.S. From the loss of significant federal grants to direct investigations on everything from diversity efforts to allegations of anti-Semitism. In the desperate hope that federal scrutiny might pass them by, university officials began quietly renaming web pages, tweaking job titles, and placating the mounting concerns of students and faculty who demanded the campus take a firmer stand. Behind closed doors, leadership described the situation as a compounding wave of uncertainty, noting that the speed of new federal directives was a bit of a shock. Importantly, UCCS declined to make any top administrators available for comment. University spokespeople were emphatic. The views and testimony collected in interviews with students and faculty did not represent the official stance of the administration itself. Several professors even insisted on anonymity, fearing retaliation or unwanted attention given the politically charged climate. Chancellor Jennifer Sobinet admitted, "Like our colleagues all over higher education, we have devoted huge amounts of time just trying to interpret the changing federal directives." Students, meanwhile, have felt the stress radiating down from leadership. "There's the real pressure from keeping funding intact," said Ava Knox, a junior and reporter for the campus newspaper. "It's tense. Faculty want to tread carefully in their research and in giving guidance to students because no one knows when the rules might change again." A White House spokesperson declined to respond to the AP's request for comment. Hopes dashed. Right after Trump secured his second presidential term, UCCS leaders scrambled to determine what the administration's evolving policies might mean for their campus. Chancellor Sobinet, after meeting with the Republican congressman representing the district, a district Trump won handily, in December, mapped out a scenario. Perhaps existing research dollars would still flow, since clawing back grants is a challenge without Congress. "The money flows through Congress," her notes observed. "Grant money will likely remain, but with changed rules for how it can be spent." She also assumed that any plan to dismantle the Department of Education would hit a wall in the Senate, given its makeup at the time. In hindsight, though, like many, she underestimated how forcefully the Trump administration would move to restructure federal agencies. A broader agenda at play, but here's a flashpoint for debate. The conservative push to transform higher education didn't start with Trump, but he certainly accelerated it. For years, conservatives had argued that colleges favored a progressive worldview, sometimes stifling dissent. In 2023, prominent Republicans in Congress grilled Ivy League presidents. Two resigned soon after. Trump, campaigning in 2024, was vocal in attacking what he labeled a left-leaning bias on campuses, singling out protests over Gaza and classroom views. Under his renewed leadership, the administration froze hundreds of millions in research grants to schools like Columbia and Harvard, and launched high-profile investigations into campus antisemitism. Even prestigious universities weren't immune. When Harvard filed suit, Trump responded by threatening both international student visas and even Harvard's tax-exempt status. Meanwhile, funding was slashed at a growing list of universities, Northwestern, Penn, Princeton, Cornell, for reasons ranging from their responses to Gaza protests to their support for transgender athletes. It's tempting to imagine public regional schools like UCCS would fly under the radar. After all, the vast majority of U.S. college students attend such institutions, not elite private colleges. For a while, that gave UCCS a sense of protection. Jeffrey Scholes, a philosophy professor, put it plainly. You'll find people representing every political shade here. You just don't see the ideological battles that play out on other campuses. Money talks, but the federal government holds enormous power in higher education, dispensing around $60 billion annually in research grants alone. Most students nationwide rely on federal grants and loans to cover their costs too, meaning policy shifts in D.C. ripple rapidly across the landscape. At UCCS, external research grants totaled about $19 million last year, a slice of the school's $369 million budget, to be sure, but one that supported expanding research programs in areas funded by agencies like the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense. That growth is now in jeopardy when 3 major grants were abruptly cut by the Trump administration, including ones that supported civics programs, cultural preservation, and women in technology. School leaders scrambled for answers, but found little clarity. Even federal officials seemed confused as thousands lost jobs and entire departments were shuttered. One official, referencing disturbing updates from D.C., summed up the mood. The sky is falling at NIH. Combined with tighter federal oversight of student grants and loans, including attempts to defund the Department of Education and shift student loan management elsewhere, the picture became even bleaker. While Congress blocked the most severe cuts, new laws did cap graduate student loans, raising concerns that could affect UCCS's financial stability in coming years. A new battleground, DEI and transgender rights. The administration's drive for change also landed hard on campus policies around diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, as well as LGBTQ+ rights. This is the part that tends to spark heated debate. For example, when the Department of Education opened a probe into a PhD scholarship partnership for women and minorities, it argued that the program's restrictions amounted to illegal racial discrimination. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. UCCS is on the list, wrote a top University of Colorado system official. Administrators at UCCS were shocked. Then came executive orders around transgender athletes. When Washington threatened to pull funding from schools allowing trans women to compete in women's sports, UCCS promptly reviewed its athletics department to ensure compliance, only to find it had no transgender athletes participating.